Thank you for clicking on this very natural video. Please subscribe if you're in line with your true nature. But wait, what the heck does nature even mean? Uh, I don't know. Just kidding. I have some ideas on this. What is it though? Seriously, sometimes we think we know what nature means. And then if you think a little deeper, it might not be what you think. So when I think of nature, I think of the trees and the butterflies and the grass growing and the wind blowing all over. And I think of those robot machines as unnatural, or even humans as unnatural, some people think. If you start from a standard Darwinian basis, you might consider humans just as natural as everything else. If you're some kind of religious dogmatist, or you have a certain view on the soul, then you might think of humans as separate from nature, as something that needs to be ascended beyond what we consider natural. But what's in common with these two ways of looking at what nature is? And this is a pretty common perspective or dichotomy. It's a dualistic concept. What makes it this way? And underlying these views on what nature is an idea of control. What humans can control and what humans can't control. Because the trees and all these things that we consider more natural is in a sense beyond human domination and control. And things like AI and nuclear bombs and these things we'd consider abominably unnatural. A lot of people. That's that's in our control. If I can keep my head straight right now, it's in our control. So the artificial versus natural dichotomy is based deeper on what we have power over as humans. And why is this important? Because in a certain sense, it dissolves this dichotomy. If you're not concerned about what we control or don't control, and you don't have a particular opinion on what's unnatural or natural, they can blend together because humans create robots. So if humans are natural, then the things we create are also natural. It's like a bird's nest compared to a bird. We wouldn't consider the twigs and the formation they put them in unnatural because, but to the bird, if we were looking at it with the same definition from a bird's eye view, our nests as birds would be unnatural because we don't control, or we control the nest. Sorry for mixing it up. I just took a shower. So from the bird's view, if they accepted our definition of control, they would think that it is unnatural. They created it, they controlled it. In the same way, from our perspective, AI is unnatural. And robots are unnatural because we created them. They're artificial. I'm not saying it's good or bad to look at it from any of these perspectives. I suppose there's utility in looking at nature from that definition and dichotomy. But it's sort of funny if you let go a little bit and think about it from a different perspective. And what else is connected to nature? What else? There's sort of this idea of purity attached to nature, that the trees and the birds and the seasons and the elements are more pure than the things that we might consider unnatural. So when you attach this ideal of purity to it, it gets a certain dimension that the things we don't control are inherently more pure than the things that are human controlled, which has interesting epistemological implications if you take it to different places. But for example, if I were to say something like AI, very unnatural, we should do away with it. Computers, unnatural. Almost like that wretched Unabomber manifesto. He felt that all these distractions, secondary activities are almost less pure than just surviving. That survival is the most pure form of life. And he was a environmentalist in a sense, a violent one, but this ideal of purity, that these natural things are more pure, is a very spiritual perspective in a way. And it's also equally a materialist perspective, because everything, if you see the connection, the control element to what nature is defined as, you see that our views on materialism are connected, that all these different viewpoints are connected. And how many wars have been started based on ideals of what's more pure? Do I even have to give examples? Just look it up. How many wars have been started because of this drive towards purity? And there's real problems with the things humans control and the way we control it. So on some level, it's equally as important not to discuss what's natural or not, but to discuss how do we control things in ways that are more harmonious than others, which is also a subtle form of purity. So I'm not saying it's bad to discuss things based on purity, but it can be dangerous. The emotional attitude you have towards these things makes a big difference. Ideals of purity are very connected to obsessions in obsessive compulsive disorder. Ideals of purity are connected to all kinds of things, and they're almost non-dualistic in their implications. I'm not saying we give up on the ideal of purity. I haven't fully given up on it, but I see potential downsides to words like this and concepts based on it. Monotheism, from this perspective, also has an ideal of purity. For example, false idols, depending on what religion you believe in. These ideas of false idols, they're seen as less pure. How different religions define what a false idol is depends on the culture. Or what about monastic practices in Christianity or Buddhism? They have certain views on purity, but there's going to be overlap between them. And that's when these meta-mystics come in. They have a certain view that there's a common thread, a perennial element to all these religions. And is that common thread more pure than the particulars of any given religion? Is the common thread of compassion more important than keeping kosher or taking monastic vows as a Buddhist that have very particular elements to that tradition? Or are the particulars just as pure because one tradition's more valuable than another? It depends on who you ask, and I'm not going to answer that for you. And I don't see a need for an answer, because trying to find a common thread can sometimes have an ideal of purity. And as someone with OCD, this can be quite dangerous if I take it seriously. These ideals of purity make me mentally ill. So I keep a lighthearted attitude the best I can towards these problems. And they're not necessarily problems. They're problems to the extent that we believe that they're problems, that our ideals of purity don't have an answer. Because maybe they're not meant to have an answer. Maybe at different times in history and in our lives, there is an answer. For example, if I were an alcoholic, giving up alcohol would be purifying. And I just burped. Just kidding. But, not kidding. I did burp, but that was a fake one. But if I were like an alcoholic, giving up alcohol would be a good choice, even though there might be downsides to the ideal of purity. But certain things are right in certain contexts. And it's the danger, to a certain extent, comes from the attitudes we take towards it, and our fears and our anger. And it's fascinating. And I just encourage you to contemplate these ideas in your own ways, because sometimes it's helped. Well, let me say this. It's helped me with my OCD. These kinds of philosophical explorations where I'm not looking for an answer. I'm just looking for interpretations. I'm just looking for different paths that people take. Where does it take them? Why did they end up there in the first place? Why did I end up where I'm at? And how does it compare to others? Having joy towards it is liberating. And on that note, I think I'm gonna have a brand endorsement for this cup. It's filled with hydration and sometimes paint. Neither is less pure than the other. And thank you. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. And Velociraptor is chillin' today.